Han stood beside Jintei, his voice barely above a whisper as he wondered aloud what the two men at the far end could possibly be doing with the shirtless figure sprawled on the slab. Jintei pressed close to Han and urged him in a low voice to stay hidden as three ominous figures in hoods drew near. The man now shirtless and gagged, thrashed desperately against his restraints, muffled cries betraying his growing frustration and fear. The old guy loomed with a menacing glare over the captured man, who lay bound and gagged on the cold floor, fear etched across his face as the oppressive silence hung heavy between them. Amidst a storm of dramatic light, a confident and victorious elder, raised a glowing sword high above his head, his triumph casting a wave of shock through those who witnessed the impossible moment. In a stifling haze of tension, Han gripped the crimson fabric with trembling hands, sweat beading on his brow as a pained cry was forced from his lips. On a stark, tension-filled backdrop, a jagged speech bubble bursts forth as the shocking realization dawns that someone has been killed, electrifying the air with disbelief. Han pressed trembling hands to his face, anxiety flooding his wide eyes as he grappled with the chilling realization that the man he feared was long dead, yet the haunting sounds continued to torment him. A bloodied hand clenched tightly, every trembling finger marked by dirt and determination. From that trembling, bloodied hand, the gaze shifted downward to a pair of steady feet planted on the stained floor as someone calmly announced to everyone that everything was ready. On a shadowed table, the gentle hush of anticipation lingered as a solitary hand reached out to choose from an array of ornate silver forks, the moment poised between decision and ritual. In a dimly lit chamber shrouded by unease, three hooded men stood side by side, sweat beading on their brows as an ominous array of floating forks hovered before them against a blood-red backdrop, heightening the suffocating tension. Against a stark red backdrop, a shadowed figure seemingly as Han, overwhelmed by sudden shock, gasped and clutched his mouth while Jintei watched in tense silence behind him. In that charged silence, Jintei stepped forward, seized Han's face with serious intent, and firmly redirected his anxious gaze, instructing him not to focus on the shocking sight but to look instead at the people. Sweat beading on his brow as he questioned aloud why the people mattered so much. Amid the dim light of the convent, two nuns sat in anguish, one clutching a fork with trembling hands and a tormented gaze, while the other's lips bled. As the air thickened with distress, Han wondered silently why he was forced to witness such filth, cruelty, and suffering. Han froze in shock as he recognized the two somber figures, his mother and father, standing together in dark formal attire, their tense glances and the small rope between them filling the air with unbearable tension. Han recalls his parents being kind and loving. On a screen flickering with static, Han stared in uncertain awe as two distorted, glitching figures emerged, his heart lurching with the whispered hope that they might be his mother and father. In the tense glow of that dimly lit space, Han's voice trembled as he pleaded for them to leave, his fear intensifying the unease that passed between him and Han's solemn gaze. In the dimly lit room, Jintei stood with a heavy heart, his voice barely above a whisper as he offered a quiet apology, the weight of remorse etched deeply across his face. On a deserted parking lot shrouded in night, Jintei approached Han with a tense urgency, his worried gaze fixed on the somber figure as he demanded to know why Jintei was there at such a late hour. At dusk, in the uneasy glow of the fading day, Han stood outside with nerves exposed, turning to Jintei as he anxiously asked if he was truly the one losing his grip on reality. In the hush of a tense evening, Jintei's calm authority cut through the air as he halted Han's advance, insisting they sit inside the car to talk before anything else unfolded. On a shadowed city street, two men sat in a parked car, the tense silence broken as Han, eyes narrowed with suspicion, questioned Jintei about when it all truly began. Against the backdrop of a blurred city night, Jintei leaned forward with a somber expression, revealing to his companion that over 2 decades had passed since their parents first became part of the assembly. Jintei's hands tightened around the steering wheel as he realized with grave seriousness that what he faced was not merely a club, but a gathering driven by religious purpose. In a realm suffused with mystical energy, a blazing phoenix erupted in a surge of radiant flames, embodying the awe-inspiring revelation of a faith devoted to the worship of immortality. In the dim interior of a parked car beneath the shroud of night, Han's suspicious gaze met Jintei's guarded calm as a tense question hung between them, prompting Han to quietly deny any involvement. Beneath the pale glow of city lights, Han stood among shadowed trees, his anxious voice trembling as he demanded to know why this revelation had been shown to him now, unable to hide his distress over the madness unfolding around them. On a shadowed tabletop, a solitary newspaper lay under dim illumination, its unsettling headline hinting that Han was questioning whether Jin-tae knew about children vanishing from the orphanage. On a rain-slicked street shrouded in uncertainty, Jin-tae gazed at the blurred missing children poster, his skepticism surfacing as he quietly questioned whether the stories of runaways could truly be believed. On a shadow-draped street outside the glowing facade of Happy House, Jin-tae sat in a parked car with Han, his curiosity piercing the night as he questioned why Han's father continued to support the enigmatic organization. On a suspenseful evening thick with revelations, Han's shocked gaze filled the room as he demanded to know if his own father had truly sacrificed the children at the facility. In the hush of a dimly lit corridor, Jin-tae's serious tone signaled the start of a long-held confession as he reminded Han of the question he once asked about becoming a priest. In the muted glow of the somber room, Jin-tae's solemn gaze fixed forward as he quietly revealed the heavy truth that he served as a carrier of souls. Han's face froze in shock as he struggled to process what he had just heard. Jin-tae revealed with chilling calm that he alone decided who would be sacrificed, leaving Han stunned and searching for answers as unease filled the tense silence between them. Jin-tae gazed at the shadowy image of his younger self lying quietly on the ground, his thoughts turning somber as he revealed that this story began long before they met, when he was just 7 years old. Jin-tae lay motionless with eyes closed, caught between sleep and waking as a sense of quiet curiosity mingled with the strange awareness that something about this morning was different. An uncouth figure voice breaking the silence as he confided his growing concern that the rising number of disappearances could no longer be dismissed as mere runaways. On a dimly lit street beneath the glow of a lone street lamp, two figures exchanged serious words, one remarking on the rarity of finding young bloods and suggesting they begin searching for other facilities to carry the souls, casting a strategic tension into the night. In a dimly lit room heavy with uncertainty, Jin-tae lay sprawled on the floor, confusion flickering across his features as he wondered aloud about the cause, be it drugs or something else, before drowsiness claimed him and he slipped helplessly back into half-conscious sleep. Then, roused from uneasy slumber, he found himself standing bewildered before a vast glowing portal, struggling to grasp how he had awakened in an unfamiliar place. Suddenly, the eerie light revealed Jin-tae bound and vulnerable on a cold stone altar, his fearful thoughts echoing that he had been tied up and left helpless in this disturbing place. In a tense hush broken only by the pounding of his heart, Jin-tae found himself paralyzed by unfamiliar fear as the reflection of eager, scrutinizing eyes burned into his own. Then, as the hooded man's face emerged from the shadows, a menacing light revealed the chilling intent in his eyes, making Jin-tae feel as though he stood moments away from being consumed. In that suffocating moment, Jin-tae lay frozen with terror, convincing himself that if he let out a scream he would lose all control, so he forced a facade of calm and uttered whatever desperate words surfaced, clinging to the faint hope of survival. 3 cloaked figures closed in around Jin-tae, who, lying fearful on the table, desperately pleaded that if they spared him, he could be of help. As the rope tightened around his wrists, Jin-tae insisted in a low, urgent tone that having someone like him would ensure no one suspected a thing, while the 3 men watched in inscrutable silence. Jin-tae, shirtless and sweat-soaked, gazed upward with unwavering resolve as he announced his decision to bear the weighty responsibility of carrying souls. The sinister old man, his face half-veiled in shadow and etched with tension, met Jin-tae's resolve with a silent, pensive stare that spoke of unspoken doubts and heavy contemplation. Jin-tae stood alone, his shadow stretching behind him as he revealed with grave seriousness that he had become the soul carrier, the reaper, tasked with the somber religious duty of selecting sacrificial victims for cannibalism in service of the immortal. In the faded sepia glow of an old photograph, Jin-tae recalled how Ishin's father, as the assembly's representative, had chosen to support and watch over him, a decision he now admitted might sound like an excuse, yet carried the weight of quiet protection. Now, as the shadows deepened, the memory gave way to a terrifying vision, a menacing tiger's face emerging from the darkness, its glowing eyes and open jaws embodying the deadly threat Jin-tae had chosen to face for the sake of survival. Jin-tae stood over a fallen figure, his gaze shadowed by memories of a childhood steeped in unspeakable acts, reflecting silently that witnessing such darkness had always left him strangely relieved not to be the chosen victim, while a hooded presence lingered ominously nearby. Jin-tae gripped a bottle tightly as he reflected on how, over time, he had adapted to the surrounding madness and felt his own thoughts slowly shifting to match theirs, while the unknown silent figure receded into the shadows behind him. In a gentle wash of light, Han stood frozen, his wide eyes betraying an astonished realization that marked the beginning of something profound. In a stark pool of light surrounded by darkness, 2 boys faced each other, and Jinte quietly acknowledged that this was the moment he had met Ishin.